everybody, it's your boy Jack here, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about this comic here, boom, the Doomsday Clock issue number 3. For those of you who don't know, I actually got 2 issues of this comic. If you want to know why, you can check it up in the card or down below in the description. But besides me self-promoting, even though it ain't Sunday, I'm going to be reviewing this comic, the Doomsday Clock issue number 3, a part of the series that I'm doing that reviews this comic book series. So we're going to be reviewing this, boom, the Doomsday Clock issue number 3. I'm really excited to review it. I think this was like a really interesting story as a single issue because of how they really attach like how they really use the main storyline and everything, but also how like the artwork and everything, and like the way that they cut the comic and everything with its storyline. It was really well done, and personally I liked it. And I like the subtle messages and like hints, all that kind of stuff. So let's dive into it. So firstly, just to get this out of the way, there's the 2 smaller storylines of the comedian versus Ozymandias fight and the mime and marionette fight. So firstly, with the comedian versus Ozymandias fight, it sort of got explained about how the comedian is still alive even though he got killed off in the original Watchmen, and he's not technically a comedian number 2, like he's just still the OG comedian. And I like the I don't mind the comedian. I like the comedian, and I like the whole like poetic justice, like that whole point that he says about like how it'd be poetic that he gets like Ozymandias gets flown through the window, that kind of stuff, even though he like lives. Spoiler alert. I like that. Like I like that whole fight scene and everything. It was well done. The only thing that I was confused about was the comedian and how he got brought back. It seems from what I interpret from this book, seems like somehow Dr. Manhattan somehow transferred the comedian into the ocean of where Gotham City is, and that's how he's still alive and everything. But I'm still really confused about that. It's very vague and everything. I'm not sure, but that's my theory. If you have another theory, let me know down below. Besides that, the other storyline, that's a smaller storyline, sort of that side bit, was the mime and marionette scene. And that scene was basically another like fight sequence that they had. It was a really cool bar fight and everything. I like how even though the cover has gin on the cover breaking, they end up drinking whiskey at the end of the fight and everything. I sort of like that whole how like it's sort of contradicting each other, where it's like gin versus whiskey, that kind of thing. I really love that fight scene. It was well done. There was like really great choreography and like direction there. And I like how they're sort of extending it, that they're going to the Joker being in Gotham. But the one thing I don't like about this is I've seen this before. I saw this in issue number 2, and I really did like that fight scene in there too. But there's when it comes to them, I've already seen that in another issue. Something I'd want to see with these 2 characters is how they would have developed a bit more, how maybe they would have changed being with each other, or even more of a spotlight on their relationship and everything, and who basically who the 2 of them are really, and why their relationship is so important to each other, like a bit more. And less of like a fight scene, because like a fight scene doesn't really give much as a character, gives me the reader, or you the reader, info about who these characters are. And I just was like sort of slightly upset about this lack of character development there. And yeah, but overall I did like the fight scene. Moving forward, I gotta talk about this main storyline here. The Batman and Rorschach storyline. So Batman and Rorschach reunite. It's awesome, it's epic, I love it. Unite. And I really like that. And what's really interesting is Rorschach as a character next to Batman. And Rorschach, you can tell a lot is up I think you can see it in the speech bubbles, you can see it in the way the dialogue is written. He's very much uncomfortable, and he is very, he seems like he's going crazy. He gives all of the notifications to Batman that he's crazy, and he also does that to the reader. You can see it when you read through the panels of how that there is Rorschach is slightly messed up in the head, and he just has some mental health issues and everything. Something else I liked too was the nightmare, and how the nightmare was very much hidden and everything, and we learn a bit more about that in the next issue and everything, but I really like how we get that first initial seed planted there. Also as well, when it comes to the Batman and Rorschach relationship that they have within this comic, something that's really interesting that they do with the artwork in order to display that the relationship between Batman and Rorschach is really not necessarily good, is they end up not showing Batman as a full profile, or even a full face profile, where they're going to show him like this, where a full face. But when they show Rorschach or anything, they tend to show him a side profile, or going halfway through his face and everything, sort of giving a hint to the reader itself that through the artwork and everything, that necessarily there may be something screwed up within this relationship, or even something necessarily screwed up with this Rorschach, with Rorschach and everything, because we don't see his full face, we don't see his full mood, and we don't get a full interpretation of the Rorschach paintings he creates on his face through the mask that he wears. That's what I like about Rorschach as a character, and especially in this issue. Something else I really like that really helped elevate this story would be the old home storyline. There is a seed that's planted, because of the old people that are fighting over this, over the channel and everything. There's two main, there's the two channels and everything that they're switching between is the Metahumans news channel and the adjournment news channel or whatever. And the Metahumans news is really interesting and important, and I feel in a way that they're planting the seed for future issues and everything, and the events going on in Gotham itself. And the Metahumans planting that seed, it's really interesting, because I like how they plant that, and there's a degree of interestingness and everything, that's interested in that. And I like how that sort of explains the real life problem in Gotham and in the world right now with the metahuman and the it's a Superman or superhero theory and everything. But I like how they're planting that, and I'm excited to see how that's gonna grow. But probably my favorite part of this comic would be the adjournment storyline. Although we do talk, we see Johnny Thunder and everything, who I don't really know how big of a story he's going to have in this comic, and I don't know if this is going to be a single issue thing or anything, but the adjournment, that whole TV special and everything, and the exposure that we get to it throughout the comic is really interesting, and is subtle to draw parallels between Batman and Rorschach's relationship. Overall, I think the thing that I found interesting was firstly, the adjournment itself, adjourned, or even to be adjourned, adjournment, the definition itself means to break off with intentions to meeting again. And this may be a callback to Batman and Rorschach, and the whole reveal that Rorschach gets put into a Arkham Asylum, and the idea and the intention that Batman and Rorschach will meet again, or even other characters, whether it's Johnny Thunder and Ozymandias. It could be a variety of characters, but I think because of this, it could be definitely Ozymandias and probably Rorschach, just based off of the artwork and everything in this comic. With the adjournment, there's a lot of subtle calls and mirroring, and foreshadowing of future events and everything. And that's something I really like. Like, an example of this would be Carver Coleman, and like the beginning of it, like on the TV saying this was this was Carver Coleman's last role. Like Carver Coleman being like the actor in The Adjournment, sort of being like a callback to like the O.G. Rorschach, like the Rorschach #2 being like, this sort of is like, this could be seen as a way of like, this is like his last role, in the sense of like the term of being Rorschach somewhat like ending temporarily because he gets put in Arkham Asylum. And I like that. There's like there's many different interpretations to that storyline, and I really like how you can go really deep into that. Lastly but not least, when it comes to The Adjournment, I felt like something that was really interesting was the cuts that they had, like the way that this comic was cut. And everything, and like where there were cuts between like one scene or one storyline to like another storyline. Like the biggest example I can say is when there would be an Adjournment storyline and then a Batman and Rorschach storyline, because in a way there'd be a lot of mirroring or foreshadowing or even subtle hints and everything that were really great. And a lot of it was sort of cut like very much in a cinematic sense, where there would be a whole scene and then they would cut it halfway through a scene in The Adjournment, and then they transfer it back to the Batman and Rorschach storyline, and I really like that. I like how it's sort of like combining two different art forms in a way and everything. But yeah, when it comes to the final ending of this comic, which probably was my favorite part, with the prison the whole prison sequence and everything was so well done. I love the artwork that they did in this comic, like for that sequence alone. Phenomenal. I like the shadows and everything that they used, especially with Batman. They created a beautiful silhouette with him, and especially when walking away from Rorschach when he was in the prison cell. My goodness, it was amazing. And what I loved about it is the amount of detail that they had within the lighting, within the cape itself, and like within this silhouette that they created, and it was just really, really well. One of my favorite parts about this comic that I really want to get into is the prologue. The prologue is like for me, the two articles about Carver Coleman and him dying and everything, and I really think like one of the main reasons why I think Carver Coleman is really a foreshadow, like in a way is a character that is mirroring Rorschach, is because of the headline, a detective becomes victim. And Rorschach himself is a detective, ends up becoming victim at the end of this comic, or like at the end of this issue, and he becomes victim to the law. And I like how they try to do that and everything. And overall, I would really want to get into this comic and look at all the little details, the little Easter eggs. And I think that's what's really interesting about this. So a really cool Easter egg about this comic is the letter V. V has like I think the artwork and like using a lot of like V's in it would be like, it's sort of like a slight like remembering of Rorschach or of Ozymandias, because Ozymandias' real name is Adrian Veidt. He's the owner of Veidt Industries and Veidt Industries that's the industry that he owns and everything. And like there's a lot of like hidden V's, like in the car when Rorschach is having the nightmare, his steering wheel has a V. One of the biggest ones here that I can say is actually on the label of the gin bottle breaking. You can see on the small red label here, it says Veidt Distilleries right here. I can't zoom into it, but it works, you can see it. But either way, it says Veidt Distilleries. I think probably my favorite, and I like that because it's a slight thing to remember that, oh well, there is a small focus or slight remembering, there's a slight focus on Ozymandias as a character, or even Adrian Veidt as a character, and I really like that. Probably my favorite Easter egg from this comic would have to do with the cover. and that's the bottle breaking on the cover. And this is a huge reference to 1984, and it is Victory Gin. And Victory Gin comes from 1984 because like it's all like communized and everything in that world. And there's Victory Gin, like Victory Alcohol, Victory Cigarettes, like Victory Everything. And like Victory Gin is sort of a bit of a representation of maybe the control that Ozymandias as a character has over all these characters in the issue and everything, and or the past relationships that Ozymandias or Adrian Veidt has had with all of these characters, whether it's the first Rorschach or the second Rorschach, the comedian killing him, or even the mime and the marionette recruiting them. And that's what I really like about this, is the subtle that subtle hint and everything, and maybe the possible intent of this like comic itself. So overall, that's what I found really interesting. So yeah, that's my review. I have to admit, probably have to give it a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason why I said that is I didn't love the mime and marionette storyline. I felt that overall it was a good storyline, but what needed to make it better that I would have loved to see a bit more character development and understanding of who the mime and the marionette are as characters, not just as their fighting styles and everything. So overall, I'm excited about that. Like, I'm happy though about this issue. It was really, really well done, and I'm excited to look through all the little Easter eggs and everything for this issue. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. My name is Jack Skinner. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit post notifications if that's something you're into, and let me know your thoughts about the Doomsday Clock issue number 3.